Ghanatube so I was in format na CD and not just saying some ahudo bi so ewo omanga ni muitem pano ye bobo rem ni awakotie ensem na say ba na ne ka ho no media to aso e de amawo.
Now, President-elect John Dramani Mahama has criticized the outgoing government for attempting to create an overly optimistic narrative about the economy as their tenure comes to an end. Speaking after the Canadian High Commissioner to Ghana, Miriam Montrat, paid a courtesy call on him, he expressed deep concerns about a $2.5 billion debt burden in the energy sector. He warned that without urgent intervention, the energy sector could face total collapse, describing it as a critical area the outgoing NPP administration has mismanaged. Here's more.
The energy sector is another area in which this outgoing administration has mismanaged in a major way. They've kept the lights on at the expense of accruing a very huge debt. That debt is being audited, and so far we're looking at $2.5 billion. And so not paying the producers of energy, just piling on the debt, and paying other things that are not as critical as paying down the energy sector debt. ECG has a very poor governance record, and aside from that, its losses are so huge. Technical and commercial losses, about 32%. I don't see any utility that can run with 32% commercial and technical losses and be able to continue to survive. And yet the little money that comes should be prioritized in paying those who provided the electricity. Instead, they take a chunk of it and use it to import crude oil. They're more interested in supplying crude oil than exploiting our upstream, where we have a lot of gas, so that we can provide cheaper gas. If we could cover our energy production with 100% gas, that will save us in excess of $1 billion every year. And yet, they're driving all the upstream people out. He and I went and took refuge in Côte d'Ivoire.
President-elect John Dramani Mahama also dispelled claims that the Operation Recover All Loot Committee, that is the Oral Committee, is a tool for political witch hunting. His remarks come amid concerns from some groups that the committee's investigations will unfairly target individuals, particularly members of the outgoing administration.
I announced the preparatory committee, and I think people are misunderstanding it. We're receiving a lot of information on things that are going wrong, or things, corruption scandals and all that. Some send me texts on my phone, some call me, others pass through other people. We want a focal point where all that evidence is directed, and so that they can assemble that evidence, and once we come into office, Oral is not going to be investigating people. It's going to gather the evidence and pass on that evidence to the government institutions that are geared, supposed to do that kind of work. And so we just want that if people have any information that they think is useful in the fight against corruption, pass it on to this team. That's what the team is about. And they're all doing that service pro bono. They're not expecting any payment. There's no expenditure or budget associated with the task that they're carrying out. And so that's the explanation for it.
In other stories, Finance Minister Dr. Mohamed Amin-Adam has warned he risks jail term if he refuses to put the mini budget before Parliament. The Finance Minister has been absent from Parliament for 4 days in a row, leaving the budget for the first quarter of next year in limbo. Now, speaking on the floor of the House, Minority Leader Dr. Kesolatu Forson warned Dr. Amin-Adam to be mindful of his duties or risk severe punishment.
The expenditure in advance of appropriations for January to March 2025, the Speaker, can be laid by any member on behalf of the Minister responsible for Finance. The Speaker, copies are before us. I have a copy. The Speaker, I'm sure you also have a copy. And I think this is not the presentation itself. is laying of papers. Mr. Speaker, there are occasions or instances that papers have been laid on behalf of a minister of state. In the same vein, we have a minister for tourism before us. Mr. Speaker, he is the available leader and he's a minister for tourism, a cabinet minister. Mr. Speaker, I urge him to lay it on behalf of the minister responsible for finance. But if you don't want to do it, I can do it on your behalf. Mr. Speaker, I also want to convey to the minister and His Excellency the President that the Constitution places an obligation on the President to present to this House before the year ends expenditure in advance of appropriation for the first 3 months of the year 2025. And this is Article 80. Mr. Speaker, aside that, the PFM Act, the Public Financial Management Act, places a responsibility on the finance minister to act on behalf of the president to present the estimate before us. And there are severe penalties for not doing it. There are severe penalties for not doing it, including a jail term. Severe penalties. So I just want to caution those in office to be aware of the constitutional provision and also to be aware of the PFM Act.
And now, but the majority side have been explaining that the minister will be in the House today to submit the document.
Appropriation on account from January to March 2025 is an important document. The finance minister ought to do that on behalf of the president. The finance minister have given indication that he's ready to do that, but he's unavailable, absent at the moment. So tomorrow it can be laid and taken, but for us to say that a different minister should do that, this is very important document. Without authorization, neither does he have any indication to do so. Mr. Speaker, as a deputy majority whip, I can say that I have had that conversation, and the finance minister will do that tomorrow.
You had the conversation with the president?
Yes, and that will be, the indication is that tomorrow.
I don't want us to come tomorrow and we are told that I don't have authority to do 1, 2, 3. Then you are the same leaders who say you don't want us to sit on Saturday. And tomorrow is Friday. If we don't do that, it means that this item might not be taken by the House before we transit to the next government. And you know, it's very easy to do it. The next government can come on the next day if they come and present it, and the House will have to work on it, and it is done. And you will be setting a very bad precedent. You know, you'll be setting a very bad precedent, and it's not for your health.
I was here for me now, as I said, we did mechi equity in some air coso, a war or manganimu, way dear, me the movie and I so many major comments. No, Emma may our comments actually. I would drink Ewan sending now no for our comments in the Ebra and a magic bread. I can kind. I'm our fair, make I will be set channel way a Ghanatube. So don't forget to subscribe, hit on the notification bell, share, and like all our videos. I was here for Snowy Day. See you dear, Macramo.